Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and the thumbs up before we get started with tonight's story. But go and get yourself something lovely to drink, because I've got a lovely story for you tonight, so let's get started. Dear Sarah, and all your lovely listeners. It had been a normal morning, predictable, standardly routine, you could say. Of course, there had been the usual mayhem that we would get every morning, as the children got ready to go to school. I have two sons, Paul, that was 10 at the time, and Mark, who was 12. Then there was my daughter Rebecca, who was 13 years old. Let's just say, as any parent can fully understand, it's always a nightmare to wake them up and get them ready for school. Suffice to say, Rebecca, like a performing clockwork clown, was the one who kept us waiting, as she dilly-dallied around, and was always looking for something she'd lost last minute. When we were halfway down the drive, always when we were halfway down the drive, "Ma'am, I can't find my textbook. Ma'am, I can't find my sweater," were the chorus of words I would expect to hear every morning from her. And they were regular as the morning pop-up tarts she ate every day for breakfast. She was what they might describe as a scatterbrain, who was predisposed to being so dreadfully forgetful, while my sons were a pleasure, as they caused me very little grief. They were always ready on time, never creating the inevitable hold-ups of my daughter, who was like that major accident on the highway, spawning congestion and a very uncongenial traffic to build up and reach a standstill. Rebecca was always like that. My husband was not slow in reminding me that I was exactly like our daughter when we went out to any social engagement, when quite suddenly I couldn't find a single thing that I was looking for. I would procrastinate, start to panic, and subsequently I would successfully hold us all up, and it would be ages before we finally got going. He knew exactly what I was like, so he would cunningly tell me that we had to be at a place by 6, when we were really only expected by 7, so that we would arrive on time. Had poor Rebecca taken after me? Had I passed on some less than desirable genetic traits to my poor daughter? It would seem so. The very thing that infuriated me about her the most was the thing I despised about myself. My two sons were the spitting image of my husband, not only physically, but like their father, they were pragmatic, practical, level-headed and neat. Their bedrooms were always tidy, without even a sock out of place, but Rebecca's disorganized room looked like a hurricane had hit it, as if her whole topsy-turvy room had been spun around in a washing machine, as puddles of her clothes would lie in tangled, muddled heaps on the floor, haphazardly strewn over upholstered chairs, and dangling precariously on the edge of a hanger in her closet, looking as if in any second they'd drop off and fall to the closet floor below, to join the other forsaken piles of clothes. My mother affirmed that I'd been like that when I was young, so I decided to cut Rebecca some slack. I'd hated how hard my mother had been on me growing up, about the state of my bedroom. She had goaded me tirelessly to tidy up all the time. I remember I used to throw everything into my closet, closing it tightly behind me. It would be bursting at the seams, but the room always looked halfway decent, and my mother was none the wiser. Rebecca looked a lot like me, with long brown hair that she wore in 2 pigtails, and green eyes, whereas my sons looked exactly like my husband, black short curly hair, hazel eyes, and cute dimples on their cheeks. We lived in a delightful symmetrical double-story farmhouse in Colorado. My husband ran his own very successful business. He sold guitars from a musical store in town, and he gave people private tuition after hours, as he was passionate about teaching people how to play. My husband had music oozing through his veins, like butter melting over a hot bagel. But me? No, I wasn't musical at all. I'm afraid I knew as much about music as a bushman knows about the municipality tap water. Even when I was at school, my musical teacher told me I was tone deaf, and I have since been told by one of my sons that when I sing I sound like a bullfrog. I answered him back by assuring him that some bullfrogs don't sound half so bad. When I became a mother, I didn't realize how brutal it can be when your kids tell you the absolute truth. They don't hide behind nice words to appease you or to soften the blows. They'll tell you exactly what they think. My husband will tell me I look great when we're about to go out. But one of my sons will derail the compliment almost immediately by fortuitously saying, "Ma'am, you look like a canary in that yellow outfit. Whereabouts are you going in that?" On another occasion my daughter might spout, "That dress you're wearing with the flowers all over it, it makes you look like an old woman. It looks like you bought it from a thrift store and that it's been hanging in someone's closet since the 3rd century AD. There is one benefit from kids. They're so forthcoming with the truth, and that is when they tell you that you look $1 million, you know that you actually do, and you can leave your home with a measure of confidence, having won their approval. Because believe me, they know all the current trends, what's in, what's out, and what just isn't a good look. And I take their opinions very seriously. On this day, what I thought would be a pretty routine morning, I regret to say, ended up being anything but. It's funny how life can sometimes surprise you and take you off guard, and not always in a good way, I hasten to say. Let's just say after dropping my kids off at school, I picked up a little shopping and returned home to my Colorado farmhouse in my white Volkswagen CTI. I was really expecting it to be a run-of-the-mill predictable day, where I'd embrace the regular routines of daily life. Then I'd pick up my kids from school in the early afternoon. We lived on a sizable plot of land, where we had about 6 horses, a couple of goats, who my children told me, and tirelessly complained, were very, very smelly. Then there were plenty of free-range chickens, and 2 adorable mixed-breed dogs that we rescued from the pound. Our property consisted of rolling meadows, rugged outcrops, a plethora of trees, a stable block, a barn, and some outbuildings. I've always thoroughly enjoyed Colorado. I love the spectacular mountain views here, the big blue sky, all the trees, the flowering meadows, and the wild animals we get in this part of the world, of which there are many, that have graced our path and ventured onto our property from time to time. I parked my car in the driveway and proceeded to take my shopping into the house, where I laid the brown bags onto my pristine granite countertops, when moments later, out of my kitchen window, I see an unknown sports car rolling down my driveway, a shining blue Corvette. I'd seen that sports car before around town, but unexpected visitors landing on my doorstep without forward warning and notice always gives me a little anxiety. Who could this be? Then I see her. She's climbing out of her car. She's dressed to the nines, as if she stepped out of a bandbox. She's wearing a short leather skirt and a tight-fitting red shoestring top with red high heels. But then I know this woman. Well, I don't, and I do. I'd seen her around town before, and every time I'd been unfortunate enough to encounter her, she'd been unusually aggressive towards me, for no reason at all. And now here she is, marching bumptiously up to my front door, with an audacious swagger, shaking her poofed-up long mane of fake blonde hair, with a defiant, haughty determination. What the hell does she want? Her face looks as if it's rigidly set in stone, with that formidable, truculent look that gives you the impression that if you rub her up the wrong way, she might just bite. The kind of person you approach with caution, like a red warning light on the highway. The first time I bumped into this strange, pugnacious woman, I was in the grocery store, standing at the delicatessens counter. She brazenly pushed me to one side quite abruptly, and said with a confrontational assertiveness, "Excuse me, I was here first." I immediately apologized, but I knew she hadn't been there at all. She had appeared from nowhere, like a vulture descending on its carcass. Then there was another time when I was standing on the street corner, with a coffee in my hand, one of those regular portable coffees you pick up from a coffee shop, with a plastic lid, and she went impudently swinging past me, bumping into me deliberately. My coffee went flying onto the street, and dribbled over my feet and actually burnt me. I could see the cheeky woman glancing over her shoulders at me, and there was a delighted smirk growing on her face. I remember looking at her agog as if to say, "What the hell is your problem, woman?" Then there was the time that I was shopping and turned around to find my trolley filled with dozens of boxes of hemorrhoid creams that had appeared from nowhere. And then this woman walks past, looks into my trolley and says, "Oh dear, I see you've got a big..." "Oh, rather a little problem. A pain in the bum, you are?" And she prances off. I could hardly believe it, the nerve of it. I suspected she had dumped all the hemorrhoid creams into my trolley, but I couldn't understand why she'd done such a nonsensical, strange thing. It was odd behaviour from a stranger whom I didn't know. The worst thing happened was when I returned to my car in the parking lot one day and could see this woman getting into her sports car and driving away. But my car had been deliberately keyed, and there were broken eggs on the windscreen. For some reason, this obnoxious woman, whoever she was, didn't like me at all. I didn't know her from a bar of soap, and couldn't fathom why she had such an axe to grind with me. I've always been reserved, a reticent person. I have experienced rude, objectionable people before in my life. Of course I have. Who hasn't? But nothing like her. I always bite my lip and hold my tongue when encountering such unhinged bellicose types, rather than reacting adversely to them. Some people might think you should stand up for yourself, fight your corner, but sometimes it's not worth fighting back, as there are people that won't back down from an altercation, and it can end up coming back to bite you. Believe me, I know. I had learnt this salient lesson a long time ago, playing out in my own life, when I was an impressionable little girl, and the experience left an indelible mark on my life that has influenced the way I react to belligerent people. I always remember my mother was driving her truck with me next to her, seated on the passenger seat, and the truck from behind her appeared to be hooting at her to get a move on. My mother was furious to have someone bullying her like this, as she knew she was driving at a reasonable speed. "What an idiot," she says to me. "That man behind us is downright obnoxious. I'm going at the speed limit and he's pushing me to drive faster. What a dreadful bully. He's driving like a maniac and I'm slowing him down." She made another fist at the driver, and finally when he overtook her she honked her horn, and once again gave him the fist. But it didn't end there. When we got to the next stop sign, the man got out of his truck. He was well built, like a bulldozer, the kind of guy that must eat over a dozen eggs for breakfast and 3 large chickens for lunch. He had more muscles than anyone I've ever seen before. He was hugely intimidating, with the face of a bulldog, although a bulldog is cute, and he was not. Suffice to say his heavy-set body was like that of the Terminator in his prime. I remember he thundered over to our truck, swinging his arms manically, like a capriciously belligerent elephant in musk. I'm sure he secretly wished he was one, as he'd loved nothing better than to crush our truck beneath his feet like a couple of roaches beneath a heavy pair of boots. The incandescent man was sweating indignation, as salty beads of perspiration ran down his forehead, and his skin had turned a bright red colour. He stormed to our car and viciously slammed the side panels of my mother's truck, glaring in at her with the coldest dark eyes I have ever seen, that I swear almost turned as black as coal. I remember being so terrified, I was trembling like a leaf. This hostile, vindictive man looked like he was going to kill us. "Woman," he screamed, "don't you dare raise a fist at me, or honk your horn at me like that again. Or next time you're dead," he said, making that cutting sign over his neck. And then he was gone, marching away to his truck and driving off at a manic speed, so his truck rattled precariously as he accelerated. But for a brief second I held my breath, hardly daring to believe we'd had such a lucky escape. I had sensed deep down in my gut our confrontation could have been so much worse. I knew from that moment on that I would avoid ruffling people's feathers, especially of unfriendly birds, for one could not be sure of what they are capable of. We were to find out years later, looking in a newspaper report, when we saw a familiar face, the same man who we'd encountered that day, on the front page of the newspaper, glaring at us blazingly from the headlines with a title that read, "Road Rage Turns Deadly." The offensive man who had challenged us had now been convicted of murder in the 1st degree for stabbing a man to death in a fit of road rage. The picture showed him being arrested by the police. He was wearing the same menacing look he'd given us when he had fortuitously crossed our path. My mother began to shake like a wobbling blancmange jelly as the memories of that event came flooding back. Her eyes were as wide as saucers. "Don't you remember, Izzy?" she said, showing me the picture. That was the man who pounced on us that day. Remember how terrified we both were? I remember we were sobbing. Look, he's only gone and killed a man. They say he might be linked to other road rage incidents. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Incidents where fatalities were involved. People found beaten up and stabbed. So it seems like we had a lucky escape that day. We were very, very fortunate. I can hear the woman I'd just witnessed banging my front door. Forget the doorbell. She hasn't bothered to use it. Forget a gentle, kind knock. She wouldn't know the meaning of that. This woman is pounding the door. I become like that frightened girl again, sitting next to my mother in her truck, shaking like a leaf, when the giant predatory man charged towards us that inauspicious day, wearing that pugnacious I want to kill you expression on his face, like a badge of pride. What should I do? I wondered. Should I pretend I'm not here? But she'll know I'm here. My car is parked outside the door. Should I hide? Should I avoid answering the door? I mean, why should I open the door to a woman I don't even know? A woman I've seen around town who has been purposely vindictive towards me. The knocking continues. I know you're in there, Isabella. Now open the door now. I need to speak to you. I gasp in abject astonishment. Do I know this woman? How does she know my name is Isabella? Maybe I went to school with her, and she's changed so much over the years that I don't recognise her at all. Maybe I said or did something back then, all those years ago, that upset her, and that's why she's so mad. People can harbour hurt and resentment for a long period of time. But then again, I was never a bully at school. Surely not that. The very idea is ridiculous. After all this time. But then I'm running out of probable scenarios, and that is the best one I can come up with. Open the door, Isabella. I need to talk to you. I walk over towards the door, but I don't open it. Who are you? What do you want? I say. I'm not going to hurt you, Isabella. I just need a word, that's all, a word. I'm sorry, but do I actually know you? I've seen you around town. But who are you? Just open the door, Isabella. Open it. I can't talk out here, can I? I'll explain everything when you let me in. You can't leave me standing out here all day because I'm not going to leave, and you've got children to pick up later from school. What are they going to think if you abandon them like that? Against my own better judgment, I cautiously open the door to peer at my visitor through a tiny crack, and the impertinent woman wastes no time. She pushes right past me, barging into my house, and trotting over to the kitchen with such a presumptuousness, as if my home actually belongs to her, and not the other way round. Some coffee would be nice. I like mine with milk and sweetener. Have you got any sweetener? I nod. I think so. Then get on with it, will you? There is something irksome about this woman's disquieting demeanour that scares me rigid, just like that intrusively provocative man with the road rage incident all those years ago. I want to scream out, Who the hell are you? What do you think you're doing barging into my home like this? Get out and go away. But I can't say a thing. My mouth is like a goldfish, opening and closing. The words don't come out. My actions are almost robotic. I just do what this woman says, as if she's holding me at gunpoint. But hypothetically, she actually is. I feel that dreadful surge of fear, leaping over my body like it did when I was a little girl. But I try my level best to hold it together. I can't let this frightful woman see that she's unsettled me, because that would please her very much. She watches me preparing the coffee, and does not say a single word. My hands tremble. Finally I hand her a mug of coffee, and she points for me to sit down. Sit over there, Isabella. I've got something important to tell you. Something that you're not going to want to hear, but it needs to be said. I sit down very stiffly, holding my mug tightly in my hands so that the white knuckles are showing because I'm so nervous. I've never met a woman that intimidates me this much. Her manner is brusque. She looks like the kind of woman you'd be terrified to say no to, for fear of some rather alarming repercussions or consequences. Do I know you? I ask her again. I mean, I've seen you around town before. I omit to mention her rude treatment towards me on such unfortunate encounters. I am one of your husband's guitar students. My name is Cherry. Me and your husband are having an affair.
We're very much in love, and he hasn't got the heart to tell you that he doesn't love you anymore. So I've taken it upon myself to tell you the truth. I refuse to be his bit on the side, you see."
"What?" I gasp. "My husband having an affair? No, he wouldn't do that to me. You're lying. It's not my husband's nature to cheat. I know him very well. He's just not like that." The woman smirks. "Well, then you don't know him very well, do you, Isabella? If you must know, your husband has been keeping my bed very nice and warm for me of late, and you haven't suspected a single thing, have you?"
Poor little Isabella. So naive, so blindly ignorant. Your husband wants to file for divorce, Isabella, but he's so afraid of upsetting you. He says you're like your daughter Rebecca. Dopey and scatterbrained are the words I think he used. You've always got your head in the clouds, and he can't stand it. He says everything about you makes him sick. He can't stand the sight of you. Look at you, in your scruffy sweatshirt and jeans. You're hardly eye candy, are you? You don't even make an effort with your appearance, do you? Maybe if you tried a bit more, Isabella, he wouldn't have got so bored and tired with you. Still, it's too late for that now, isn't it? You've cooked your goose, Isabella. Now you're going to have to eat it, aren't you? And by the looks of things, it's a dry, rather stringy bird, she says scathingly, sweeping her disapproving gaze over my sweatshirt. Your husband, Isabella, is so dreadfully bored out of his skull with you. Look at me. I'm a complete knockout. Do you know how much it costs to keep me looking like this? The difference between me and you, Isabella, is I actually invest in myself. But you don't give a damn about your appearance, do you, Isabella? My husband isn't shallow like that. If my husband wanted a divorce from me, he'd ask me for one. We've always been straight with each other. My husband loves me. He's always telling me so. He told me this morning. Cherry spits into my face. Are you really that stupid, Isabella? Why, I do believe you are. Just because your husband tells you he loves you does not mean he actually does. Words like I love you are robotic. They come out so easily. Anyone can say I love you. It doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't mean it's true. Now do yourself a favour, Isabella, dear. Tell your husband you want a divorce. Spare yourself some dignity, will you? Or are you so pathetic you'll remain married to someone who's so obviously cheating on you, when they don't even love you anymore? Have you got so little self-esteem, so little pride and respect? I hope not, Isabella. I seriously hope not. Otherwise I do feel very, very sorry for you. At that, the insolent woman pulls my chin directly towards her face. She glares into my eyes so vindictively. I begin to tremble like a jelly. My heart is pounding in my chest. Now you'll do the right thing, won't you, Isabella? You're not a doormat for that husband of yours, are you? Now be a good girl and do what I say. Don't see me out, she says, pushing the chair away from her so loudly that it screeches angrily over the tiled floor. I watch her swaggering off, walking down the entrance hall. She looks like she's gliding down the red carpet at a catwalk. She slams the door loudly behind her. Then she gets into her fancy blue sports car and accelerates down my drive. And even her sports car appears to be gloating as it trundles away. I am left feeling flawed and speechless. The rest of that day is like a hazy, inscrutable blur to me, where between tearful, self-pitying episodes, I am almost lost in a vacuous, hollow world, where everything has stood perfectly still, including the hands of time itself. I have become numb. It's like I don't know how to feel or even how to react. It would seem that Cherry's haunting words are like a deadly disease that is trying to seep into my mind, to gnaw away at the faith that I have in my husband, making me begin to doubt his integrity and our solid relationship. Could anything she said be true? Could my husband be actually having an affair with her? Did he really want a divorce and an end to our marriage? If he did, I hadn't seen the signs. There was nothing in his comportment that had changed to suggest that he wasn't happy with us. Why, only this morning he told me how much he loved me. The woman was so insistent, so aggressively demanding, so masterfully persuasive. Her words were like a cantankerous sharp knife slicing through bone, marrow and sinew. Was there any truth to what she was saying at all? I reasoned that she wouldn't barge into my home shouting the odds like this, persuading me to file for divorce if she wasn't engaged in an affair with my husband. I mean, who would ever do that? Something didn't feel right about all this, but assimilating this woman's words was like swallowing sharp thorns that tore at my throat. It really hurt. I went through the motions of picking my children up from school, but my mind was 100 miles away. My children were passing commentary on why I seemed so caught up in another world. "What's wrong with you, Mummy?" asks my daughter. "I've asked you 3 times. Do we have any peanut butter?" "Of course we do, sweetheart. It's in the upper cupboard over there." "Since when do you put peanut butter in this cupboard?" asks my daughter, looking at me strangely. "Are you sure you're all right, Mum? You look kind of peaky, a little bit white." "Rebecca's right," said my son Mark. "You look funny, Mum. It's as if you're in another world. It's like we're talking at you, not to you. You look quite upset. Are you sure everything's all right? Nothing bad's happened, has it? You would tell us if something was wrong, wouldn't you?" "Of course I would, sweetheart. I wouldn't keep anything from you, you know that." My son looks heartily relieved. "So Granny's all right then, is she?" I look up at my son in surprise. "Why would you ask such a strange question?" I asked, looking at him perturbed. "Of course your Granny's all right. Nothing bad's happened to her. She's absolutely fine." "No, it's just I have a friend at school. He told me when his Granny died they didn't tell him for a while. He returned home to his parents whispering and behaving really odd. They didn't want to tell him that bad news, you see. I wouldn't want you to not tell me if something bad had happened to Granny. You would tell me the truth, wouldn't you?" "Sweetheart, if anything happened to anyone we loved, I would tell you, no matter what. I couldn't keep stuff like that from you." "Phew, that is a relief. I'm so glad." "Look, kids, I'm taking myself for a walk. I think I need a bit of exercise and fresh air. I've got cobwebs in my head. That's why I'm all over the place. I'm just a bit distracted today, that's all. But I promise you I'm absolutely fine, and I won't be very long." "It'll do you good, Mum. You really do look a bit odd. The fresh air will do you good. Would you like me to come with you?" "No, I'd rather go alone, sweetheart. I need some time to myself." I observed my children giving each other sideways glances. "Keep the dogs inside, will you?" "Why don't you take them with you?" asks Paul. "They'd love the exercise, Mummy." "No, I'd rather go on my own, sweetheart." As I open the front door to leave the house, I hear my son Mark saying, "What's up with Mummy? She's behaving very, very strangely. It's like her mind is miles away." "Well, maybe she's had a bad day," says Rebecca. "Mummies and daddies get bad days from time to time, you know. It's hardly a crime. She just needs her space, that's all." I am so relieved to be out of the house. I can hear the dogs barking as they scratch at the door, obviously upset to have been left inside, when they could sense a walk was brewing. But I needed to be alone with myself. I was going to have to speak to my husband about all of this. I was going to have to find out if he had been cheating on me, and whether he did actually want a divorce. And the thought was eating me alive. I adored my husband. The idea of a life spent without him was no life at all. I'd be left feeling like a large carpet being tugged out from beneath the furniture, where everything would topple, collide, and cause chaos, pandemonium, and upheaval. The prospect of losing my husband was like this, more than I could possibly bear. Had our relationship been all but a farce? No, surely not. I'm not sure what time it was exactly, but it was late afternoon. The sun was softening. Its bright, warm shafts of light became somewhat subdued, slowly fading, replaced by a smouldering, ethereal, almost floating glaze that was very beguiling. It twinkled through the trees, and cast rainbow-like prisms over the ferns and the foliage, so that everything gleamed under its magnanimous shadows. It was difficult to be sad in this glorious oasis. I always gravitated towards the woodgrove when the world was getting on top of me, when my life was presented with arduous challenges like this that I needed to overcome. Somehow being surrounded by the vast splendour of nature dwarfed my problems, eased the troubles in my heart, with such a maternal, nurturing reassurance that it invited within me a tangible sense that everything was going to be all right, and it usually always was. The trees in the wood grove were so proud and tall. They plunged the skyline with a stately deportment. Their needled boughs glistened in the dancing residues of sunlight that bounced gregariously through the canopy, while the bird song filled my ears with pretty tweets and chirps. I laughed as I saw a squirrel nibbling an acorn, eyeing me through its dark, twinkling eyes. And just for a brief moment, I almost forgot my troubles, and I actually smiled. I thought about how much easier, how much less complicated it would be to be a squirrel, or some other animal in the wood grove, without being consumed with the kaleidoscope of human emotions that could so easily weigh you down with their heaviness. I wanted to feel as light and carefree as that squirrel, who looked as if his only concern was the acorn he was eating. I moved through the forest, crunching the leafy twigs and needles beneath my walking boots that were scattered liberally over the earthen floor. And after that, I remember nothing. It's like I went for a walk, and then I remembered nothing. I don't recall tripping or falling over. I don't recall fainting or sitting down or even falling asleep. It is as if I suffered from that phenomenon of missing time or amnesia that people often talk about. I was to find out later that an hour of my time had simply vanished, in which I had no recollection of anything that happened. So what happened to me in that missing hour? I'd love to know, for its memories, its essence, its recall have abandoned me like a balloon on the wind. But I did wake up to find myself on the forest floor, lying on a bed of moss, covered with an animal pelt. I looked up to see this large, mysterious creature watching over me, her eyes filled with an expression of grievous concern, as she studied me curiously. I can hear the words in my head. "I thought I'd lost you for a moment." I now know I have to be dreaming. I must be. I rub my eyes. I even pinch myself to make absolutely certain that I am not imagining this. But this is no dream. This is real. I stare at the creature, my eyes widening, my mouth dropping wide open in astonishment. "Are you real?" I ask her. The creature looks at me and taps my back, as if to reassure me that real she most certainly is. I know that this creature is a Bigfoot. I don't even have to second-guess this. My son Paul is a huge Bigfoot fan, and he would have given more than a month of Sundays to see what I'm seeing now. I'd always been clandestinely amused at my son's passionate interest in the ambiguous creature. But never for a fleeting moment or second had I ever entertained the prospect that a Bigfoot could actually be real. But I'd been thrown off my perch to embrace a sobering realization. These creatures are real indeed. The creature does not look like the Patterson footage I'd seen once. She is remarkably human. Her face very symmetrical, her features very feminine, her dark, soulful eyes deep, but so filled with a genuine warmth, a nurturing kindness, a matriarch type of energy. If I'd caught sight of her, I would have been seized with trepidation and fear, for she is lofty, tall, imposing and majestic, exceedingly intimidating. Imagine a lion charging towards you, but in your presence he behaves like a playful dog, oblivious to how threatening he may appear. It would take you off guard, surprise you. It was like that. I would say the Bigfoot was easily 8 foot tall, 700 pounds and 3 to 4 foot wide across a very powerful pair of shoulders that would easily make an NFL sportsman's shoulder pads almost look puny and inconspicuous. Her long, lean, athletic, muscular body was covered in long, silvery grey hair that blended in with the vegetation superbly. I'm sure she'd easily be able to sink into the shadows without even being observed. The creature has the traditional pyramid-shaped head that folds seamlessly into the shoulders, without much evidence of a neck, but there is a short one. It's barely discernible. I observe that the sun is setting on the horizon, as a tangerine sky glimpses at me through the opening of the trees. The Bigfoot grabs me by my hand and pulls me up to my feet. She brushes the bracken and twigs off me that have bespeckled my clothes, and she looks directly into my eyes. "Are you going to be all right?" she asks me, her words filtering into my head like audible words someone might speak out loud to me. No one has ever spoken to me like this before, directly into my head, with words I can hear. "I'm fine," I reassure her. The creature holds my hand for a while,
My hand feels so tiny in hers, but I love that she's holding my hand. It makes me feel as if I'm a little girl all over again, and I've been invited into the bosom of my mother's warmth, in her unconditional loving embrace, which I really need now, the way I'm feeling at the moment. I wanted to hold her hands forever. I never felt so safe, so loved, so secure before. I suddenly hear the sounds of my dogs barking as they rush eagerly through the woodgrove, followed by my husband. I can hear his feet crunching bracken. It's all going to be all right, I hear the voice in my head, and then she's gone, retreating into the shadows, as if she's never existed. I suddenly hear the sounds of my dogs barking as they rush ebulliently through the woodgrove, followed behind by my husband. I can hear his heavy boots crunching bracken and leaf litter beneath his rubber soles as he nears his approach. It's all going to be all right, I hear the voice in my head. Then she's gone, retreating into the shadows, almost as if she never existed. I feel annoyed at the interruption. I was enjoying my time with the Bigfoot. Why did my husband and dogs have to spoil this blissful moment for me? I wanted to spend more time with her. "Where the hell have you been?" says my husband, grabbing me in his arms and holding me tightly. "I've been worried sick about you. The kids say you've been gone for ages. It's going to get dark any minute." I look at my husband with a tortured, aggrieved expression as I remember Cherry and her visit. I recall why I needed to walk in the woodgrove in the first place. "I know exactly what you've done," I say to my husband. "I had a visit from Cherry today." My husband stands still and gasps, throwing his hand over his mouth. "Are you kidding me? That ghastly woman visited you here at the house? The nerve! The bloody nerve of the woman!" "Yes, she did. She told me everything. She told me what you've been doing together, how you've been keeping her bed nice and warm, how you want a divorce, and that you think that me and Rebecca are completely harebrained, and you can't stand the very sight of us." "That woman! She's poison, sweetheart," said my husband, taking me into his arms. "You really have so little faith in me that you think I would sleep with a woman like her? Are you kidding? You think I'd willingly risk losing you, losing our relationship, losing our children over a woman like that? Do I look like stupid is my name?" "But she told me everything. She told me if I had any self-respect, I'd ask for a divorce. She said the two of you were very much in love." My husband sighs, running his hand through his hair. "There's something seriously wrong with that woman. She's not right in the head. She signed up for guitar lessons with me. At first, she seemed quite charming, really. Asked me all about my family, and about you. Most especially about you, actually. Then she became very flirtatious, and began to try and seduce me. I told her I was a happily married man, and I was sorry, but I wasn't interested, and under the circumstances that, because they were awkward, we should quit the guitar lessons, and we did. But since then she's been sending me all kinds of texts, telling me that she loves me, that we're meant to be together forever, and that I should divorce you. Needless to say, I haven't honoured any of her texts, even with a response. You need to ignore people like that. By all accounts, she's done this before. There's another man, what's his name? David Pierce, that's right. You can talk to him, and his wife. Apparently Cherry nearly wrecked their marriage, playing her treacherous little games. I never imagined she would do this to you. The woman is insane." "But why didn't you tell me all of this?" "I don't know. I suppose I just thought it would go away." I rush into my husband's arms, holding him tight, the tears gushing out of me in a tsunami of grief, washed away by the joyful revelation of relief that I feel. How could I ever have doubted my husband? I knew he wasn't like this. "Why did you come into the woodgrove on your own? Should you not have at least taken the dogs with you? The kids say you were behaving very oddly." "Well, wouldn't you, if someone came and visited you and told you that they were having an affair behind your back?" "Don't talk like that, sweetheart. If someone said that to me, I don't know how the heck I'd cope. Those are words I would not be eager to hear." "That's why I came into the woodgrove," I explain. "I think I get it. But what I don't get is why someone as perceptive and discerning as you would buy anything that poisonous woman had to say."
To cut a long story short, I was to discover that Cherry had a long history behind her of playing duplicitous games with married men and trying to wreck marriages. She was well known by the police, so we were able to get a restraining order on her, as many had done before. The police officer informed me that it was like Cherry lived in her own make-believe world and seemed to enjoy causing chaos wherever she went. I am still mystified as to what happened to me in the woodgrove that day, how I can remember the first part of the walk, and then nothing at all. By all accounts, I seem to have over an hour of missing time, possibly more. It's curiously bizarre, I know, but something must have happened to me. Luckily, a female Bigfoot was determined to give me help. I haven't ever seen her again, but I know she's out there. She's one of the most beautiful souls I've ever met. I have since heard horror stories about some Bigfoot accounts, but I assure you, not all of them are like that, as the Bigfoot I encountered was the kindest creature I have ever had the privilege to meet, and I certainly feel a deep love for her in my heart, as in that brief moment that I met her, she touched me like no one I know. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.